Jonathan and Nancy gotta get out all that sticky stuff to fix their relationship. Yup, you heard that right. Alright guys, this one's going to be doing a review today. This one's going to be doing a review for Stranger Things. This one's going to be doing my review for Stranger Things Season 5, the final season, Volume 2. So, I checked out the 3 episodes that dropped yesterday on Netflix, and you know, I had to do a review for this. I don't assume this review will be as long as the review I did for the first half, because the lengths of those episodes were way crazier than these ones. And there was one last episode, so this one will probably be like, 20 minutes or so, I think. But anyway, yeah. What did I think of Volume 2 of Stranger Things 5? I thought it was good. I did like the first half better, but I thought it was good. I think this season of Stranger Things has one alarming issue that I kind of just want to get into right away, because I have a lot of positive things about these episodes, a lot of things that I think stood out, but I also have one massive annoyance that I feel like really bogs down my rating for these episodes, and I want to know if I'm alone in this, because I've talked to some people that have agreed with me on this, and I feel like it's not going to be an unpopular opinion. I'm getting really burned out on the characters arguing. All the time. They're always arguing this season. I don't know what it is. And they've had banter back and forth over the seasons, you know what I'm saying? But like this season, it's like aggressively like everybody's pissed at everybody. Nobody wants to listen to anybody's ideas. Everybody's just yelling and saying that, oh, this and that and this and that, like Jonathan and, Nancy, and then Steve and Dustin was a really bad one, and then Hopper and Eleven, and I was like, I don't know, man, like, what are we doing, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, it feels like they went over the top, it feels like they went, like, the standard Hollywood, thing that they teach in screenwriting, conflict is king. Well, it sounds like they just took a bunch of that advice and just went for it, you know what I'm saying? So that's my biggest issue I had with these. It took me out of the episodes a little bit, and I was genuinely getting fed up with it, especially in episode 5. But even in episode 6 is a little bit as well, too. It kind of fixed itself a little bit, but, it is what it is. But yeah, let's go over each episode. We're going to talk about it, we're going to discuss it, and go over this, because, these are the final few episodes of the show here. This is a pretty big deal. So we get started with episode 5, Shock Jock, which I'm not actually sure why this episode is called Shock Jock, but basically it takes place literally right after Will got powers. They check on him. You got Mike calling him a hero. You got Joyce that's kind of hurt after being flung by Vecna. And then, obviously you have the rest of the characters, the kids that have been taken now. Will looks at it as they failed, but Joyce looks at it as, he saved them. And, I could see both perspectives on that. Now, Lucas is hurt. They notice that Lucas has, like, a big cut on him from the demo. I wasn't too scared about him because, there was other clips of him later in the season in the trailer, but that was, one moment there. And I like how Will looks at him and he's like, you're fine, man. Like, really? Big friggin' cut. Okay, but yeah, no, he's fine, so that's good. And then, you have, of course, the house plot with, Mr. Watson, Vecna, and, Holly and the other kids and stuff like that. Now, you have Max and, Holly that are trying to find a way to, get out of there, and you have, Delightful Derek, as he says, I'm Delightful Derek now, that's over there, and he follows them out there, basically, and, you have Henry that kind of threatens Derek, right, about his family, about his sister and his mother and his, father, and what'll happen to them if he doesn't listen to him, and if he doesn't go back, and he scares the crap out of Derek, and that's basically that. So that was kind of insane. Now, meanwhile, you have Hopper that's pissed off at Eleven, because Eleven, Hopper that's pissed off at Eleven because she hasn't done what he's said, and Eleven's pissed off at Hopper because Hopper was about to die in the last episode, and she's pissed off that he was gonna die. Now, here's the thing, with Eleven, that's a reasonable, thing to be mad about, you know what I mean, because he didn't tell her what he was gonna do, and she thought she was gonna lose him forever, so I get that part completely. I think that makes a lot of sense. But again, the damn bickering, man, it was already, like, I was like, okay, and then you get to Steve's group, and it just falls apart. Now, Steve's group, guys, I'm not even gonna cap, I didn't like any of this stuff. Like, literally, all this section of the episode, was Nancy is trying to figure something out. Nancy was the only one that was making logical sense. Nancy was, okay, let's get it done, you know what I mean? Let's find out what we're here for, you know what I mean? I like their stuff. But then Jonathan was just like, oh, Nancy, well, you gotta keep thinking about Steve, And he's just like, what, you won't even listen to me? And he's like, oh, like this and that. And I was like, oh my god, like, what is the purpose of this? Like seriously, do we need to just stretch out the episodes to an hour long so to have the characters arguing will get that, job done? Because that's what it felt like to me. Like, I was like, okay, like, stop arguing 24/7. And this got even worse. Guys, we have a fight scene between Steve and Dustin. Yeah, that's right. I'm not kidding. That's literally what happens. And I thought this was really bad. You had Steve that was talking about Eddie and how, like, Eddie was stupid for getting himself killed and all that. And I was like, okay, look. This is really dumb. Like, writers, like, what are you doing, duffers? Like, what the hell? And then they start fighting. And you find out the reason why they're pissed off at each other is because Dustin doesn't want to lose another friend. And, Steve is trashing on, Eddie's memory. And they start fighting through the building. And then he looks at him after a while and he's like, I'm done, Henderson. And he walks away. And that's just it for Steve that episode. I was like, okay, I don't get why the fight happened. I get they're dealing with a lot. I understand that. But it just felt so forced. And the fighting and the arguing. And then you keep cutting back to Nancy and Jonathan. And it's like, oh my god, Nancy. I'm just scared, Nancy. But why can't you understand that? And I was like, okay, like, this is lame. Like, this is really lame. Like, worst stuff of the season. Like, I'm not even kidding. Their plot, awful. Like, what are we doing? Get to the damn bottom of this. You know what I'm saying? And then you've got Holly and the kids in this one. They're trying to get out. Meanwhile, that's going on in Camazotz. We didn't really advance much aside from, like, the kids being there. It was kind of just, like, Max and Holly trying to, find a way out of there. That was basically it, though. And then you have Max that thinks, like, okay, we're just going to sit here and wait for 11 to come in because she will find us and we'll get out that way. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the vibe there. And then while that happens, you've also got Will and the rest of them. They're basically deciding in this one that they're going to have to, go in there and save the kids and do all that other type of stuff. And so that's what they try to do. And Will actually gets into Vecna's mind in this one, which I thought was really crazy. And I did really like this scene. You've got Max and Holly that are going through all these memories, reliving all the stuff over and over again, which I thought was kind of slow. I felt like they could have sped that up, but, whatever. They get to the final memory, and then you got Vecna that changes into Vecna. And basically, you've got Max that almost dies, but Will is able to save her by controlling Vecna. So that was my favorite part of the episode, because I thought it was great. Seeing Will able to control Vecna like that, I thought that was great. You finally get that scene from the trailer, like, run, and it was great. I love that scene. It was really scary. They're trying to get out of the house, and, even though they're in a memory, and Max keeps saying, you can't hurt us through here, yes, but he can take you back, you know what I mean? So that's one thing he can do. So you gotta get your ass out of there, So yeah, that was crazy. Very creepy scene there with Vecna. Really enjoyed that. And you have Dustin that is looking over Brenner's old, like, notes and, like, lab notes and stuff. And apparently he senses something in the sky that may kill them all. As Nancy and Jonathan make it to the top of the roof of this building, which is obviously the old lab of season 1, which I thought was pretty cool. They make it to the rooftop, and Nancy fires her gun, and, Dustin's running up the stairs like, no, don't do it, don't do that, and then Nancy fires the gun, and they cliffhanger the episode. So, kind of a nasty cliffhanger. I like that. That was good. I thought this episode was, it was pretty good. I think it did enough right, but I think it also didn't do everything right. I would say for a return episode, I think they did a pretty good job, but I don't think they did a great job. I'd say like a 6.5, I'd give that one. Episode 5, yeah, 6.5 out of 10. I think that's a fair one. Just because the bickering was really getting on my nerves, y'all, and I found that it was really them going through the memories and stuff, like, I felt like that dragged on. We just kind of kept getting information that we already knew, while also learning new things, though. And I liked the Will scene controlling Vecna, and I liked, the characters banding together and, helping each other out. I just found that it was a little much. Like, you have, like, this stuff with 8, where you find out that they're doing this, like, stuff where they're giving the blood to the pregnant woman, which I thought was kind of a good reveal, because it's what Brenner used to do in the first season, but I felt like it was kind of just rehashing old stuff, trying to redo the old stuff. I don't know. It didn't really work for me. I didn't find that stuff worked all that well. 8, I found, was severely boring, these episodes. Like, I'm not going to lie. 8, like, I understand why people don't like episode 7 of season 2. Because, like, she's boring. Like, now that she's a focus, I'm like, there's no charisma with this character at all. But yeah. So, not my favorite episode, but it wasn't bad. Like, it was just, it was alright. Now, I think this gets a lot better. Episode 6, this one was more like it for me. The scene between Dustin and Steve really was good. When he's like, I already lost Eddie, and I can't lose you too, and if you go up that ladder to save Nancy and Jonathan, you're gonna die. And he's like, no, I won't. He hugs him, And then 2 seconds later, the ladder falls like freaking like 100 feet down, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, okay, so that emotional scene between Steve and Dustin in that episode was a hell of a lot better than episode 5. That scene, I actually felt some emotions between the two of them. I felt Dustin's pain between, him and losing Eddie and everything, and the scene with him and Steve. That's how the scene should have gone in episode 5. You know what I mean? That's how it should have gone. So, love that scene. I thought that was great. He saved Steve from almost dying. Steve made it out once again. And they know what they're doing. They're really making it seem like Steve is going to die, and they keep tricking people. It's the most obvious thing in the world. I'm never nervous for Steve watching these episodes. I don't know why. It's just, they've made it so obvious at this point that I'm like, nah, they're not going to kill Steve. You know what I mean? They're just not going to do it. So, I don't know. But yeah. So that's the vibe there. That's what happened there. Really good scene. The main plot of episode 6, though, is, Max and Holly getting out of the Memories location, right? And Camazotz, right? So they try to get out, and you have Holly that goes out into the desert. Max is really unsure, and she's like, no, you know what? You're not kind of like your brother. You're exactly like your brother. You know what I mean? You're too ambitious. You're going to get yourself killed, And she goes out there, and she's standing somewhere where, in the telescope, it's basically saying like an M something, and that's kind of a signal to show that there's a big thing that drops down in the middle of the sand or something like that. They go down there, and basically, they see an old memory of Henry when he was little, and he's basically killing this guy in this, like, underground bunker or something, and taking his stuff. And it sounds like he did it as self-defense. He didn't do it because he wanted to or something like that. And Holly's seeing it, and she's kind of like, oh, no, Henry's a good guy, And Max is like, no, he's not, And that's the one thing they really try to keep playing up is, like, that Henry's, like, actually a good guy. And he's doing this for the greater good of the kids. And he's doing this for the greater good of the world itself and everything. But they're not really showing us enough evidence to show us why he would be doing that. So I would say it's just brainwashing at the moment. At least for this volume. That's all I looked at it as, you know what I mean? Now, you got Hopper and crew. They go back to the real world. They make it back. And you've got 8 that's with them and stuff like that. And I thought that was all really good stuff. You've got Robin's girlfriend that's not really convinced that the Upside Down is real. She thinks that Robin's just going insane. The military try to take her, which I thought was kind of a crazy scene. And while they're in the hospital, and, you got, Max that is, trying to snap out of it. And you finally have Max, and this was a great scene. You have Max and you have, Holly, and they're both at their crossroads, and only Max's, opportunity to get back to the real world is open. But then she tells her to believe in herself. She talks about Holly the Brave, which is what Mike talked about, and then the portal for her to get out is there too. So now they're both running, and of course they had to do the classic running up that hill, and they go both on the same side, and then Max gets out, but they frickin' cliffhanger the darn episode. And then you got Holly that ends up somewhere else. Now, this was kind of insane, and I kind of wish the episode continued. I kind of didn't like the fact that they just cliffhangered it. I mean, I'm glad that they, obviously we had the option to click the next episode, but I felt like it kind of took me out of the moment a little bit. But it was still a good scene regardless, and I think it was good, because when I heard the machines running, I was like, oh, shoot, and then it cliffhangered, and I was like, okay. Click the next episode. So at least there was that option, but I feel like it would have worked better if she would have woken up at the very end of episode 6, everybody sees her, and you get like a nice happy ending. I actually think that would have been better than cliffhangering the moment. Call me crazy, I think that's what should have happened. But it was still a good moment. I just think it kind of spun its wheels a little bit, and it lost its big moment, you know what I mean, where it should have had it, but I didn't feel like it had it, you know what I mean, because I heard the machines running, I was like, oh my god, and then, you know, they cut away, and I was like, it did not hit as much, you know what I mean? I get you want to do a cliffhanger, but you're binging these anyway, you know what I mean? It's not like people are gonna watch the next episode, you know? Like, you don't have to convince them, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, that part was a little like, you should have had her wake up at the end, but it's at the beginning of episode 7, small nitpick, but it is one that I kind of had with it. I'm trying to think of anything else that I may have missed in episode 6, because there was a lot in this one. There was a lot. They get, like, the one teacher, right? The Erica's teacher to get on board with this. He has no idea what the Upside Down is, so I thought that was kind of funny. And, well, let's talk about the big moment, because there is one big moment that happens in episode 6. I felt like this scene went on kind of long, but it was a good scene. It was the scene between Nancy and Jonathan, where they were stuck in this room full of white sticky stuff. Yeah. And anyway, so they're stuck in this room covered in white sticky stuff, and basically they're talking, right? And, you know, they're talking about all the things they hate about each other, because they think they're gonna die, because the room is getting filled up and stuff. And it was an emotional scene. I like what the writers went for in that scene, you know what I mean? They kind of felt like maybe they'd have a moment between the two of them where that was the end of their characters and, you know, stuff like that. But once again, Stranger Things and their frickin' plot armor, and they're playing it safe, and it's really frustrating, because for me, and I know a lot of people would probably disagree with me on this, we are in the final season of a horror sci-fi series. Why didn't you kill those characters? Why didn't you, right? I'm glad they lived, but wouldn't that have had a bigger impact? Wouldn't that scene had a bigger impact? I just remembered the scene off the top of my head. But if that was Nancy and Jonathan's death scene, they propose to each other, he proposes to her, and then they sit there like that as the room caves in and they die. Beautiful. Beautiful, right? Beautiful scene. But instead, they go for the normal Stranger Things thing. And I had no tension in this scene because there's other scenes of Nancy later this season with her gun firing off against the frickin' military. So I was like, okay, we know that Nancy's fine, and I don't really care about Jonathan, so it's like, it doesn't make a difference to me. So the scene lost the steam that I think it would have had if you wouldn't have put the scenes of her in the trailer later on, and if you actually would have gone through with killing those characters. I think that was a beautiful, beautiful moment. It reminded me of like the Titanic or something, you know what I'm saying? Beautiful final moment between the two lovers, you know what I mean? And they put the ring on the finger, and they sit there and they die together, as you get this beautiful soundtrack, as you get Steve and Dustin that, you know, hear this as they die, and they're like, damn, we couldn't save the man, like, you know, and they cry about it. Would that not have had a bigger impact? Tell me that wouldn't have had a bigger impact. And for all y'all saying, oh, well, it's nice that they survived. Listen, I like Nancy as well. I'm glad she survived. But this show has no balls, y'all. Like seriously, does it have any hair on its nutsack? Like, because I'm not saying it. Like, they still didn't kill anybody. I was like, oh my god, like, the stakes are not high for that very reason, and it's annoying. It's so frustrating. So, I don't know. It was a great scene, but I was like, damn, man, like, what the hell, you know? So I don't know. It is what it is. Now let's talk about the final episode, episode 7. Now this is the penultimate episode. Now, I really like this. You have the hospital, obviously. You got Karen Wheeler that comes through to the rescue. I thought that was freaking awesome. I thought she had powers at first, but I don't think she does. But she got rid of the Demogorgons with like some explosives or something. And Mike tells, you know, her to stay back, which makes sense. You have Max that can barely walk. She can't walk. She's in a wheelchair now. And she's got a reunion with Lucas, which I thought was a beautiful scene. I thought the actor for Lucas did a fantastic job in that scene. He actually kind of got to me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, the guy can act, man. He's really good. And you've got Max, who is in the wheelchair now, and now she's worried because now she's back with everybody else, which is great. But Holly isn't there. Where is Holly? Right? So then it cuts to Holly, and this episode teaches us about the Upside Down, and I thought this was the most informative thing of probably the entire season. The Upside Down is their world, this interconnecting dimension and then the upside down. And this interconnecting dimension is where that big wall goes, which is where the kids are taken. So it's the regular world, this dimension, and then the upside down. And that's what this whole thing is. And I like that they explained that. They finally told us what the upside down is. That's awesome. Love to see it. And that's a big moment for the show. You know what I'm saying? That's a big moment. Do I think it was planned that way the entire time? Probably not. But it was cool regardless. I like the way they explained it. I like the way Dustin went over it. It was, it was good. And I like how you had the teacher there not really understanding, you know what I mean? And Hopper's like, yeah, you thought that was crazy? Wait till you see this. And then they go in the upside down and try to find them, you know what I mean? Now, this was kind of gruesome because you have Holly that falls. She's trying to get out of there and she falls into the upside down. Well, while she falls into the upside down, she almost falls on top of that, building. And I remember you had Nancy that went up there, and then they cut to the current day where you see Nancy and she walks out there. She looks all traumatized as Hopper and the others get in there. And I was like, did they just kill Holly? For a moment there, they tricked me, okay? For a moment there, I was like, whoa, did they just kill a freaking young kid on this show? Yo, what the hell? Okay, damn. All right, we're in the penultimate. And then you cut back and you find out Vecna just took her back. You know what I mean? Now, with her, I'm not going to complain. Listen, that's a little kid. I'm glad they didn't show that. I'm grateful for that. Trust me. But, again, Stranger Things, they can't kill characters. You know what I'm saying? They just can't. Because it doesn't start with the letter B, If it was Bali, then they probably would have killed her. You know what I mean? If it was Bancy and Bonathan, then they probably would have killed them. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know, y'all. I really wish that they would just get some freaking balls and kill characters, They're not doing anything, man. And it takes the tension and the fun out of it for me, because, a lot of people say, oh, anybody could die at any time. And I'm like, really? You sure about that? Because not from what I'm seeing, So I don't know. Now you've got the kids, Henry's got them completely brainwashed. He brings Holly back, and Holly actually literally, knocks one of them down, fights a good bunch of them off, and tries to get out of that house. Unfortunately, they restrain her, though. Henry's got these kids completely brainwashed. I mean, it's not even funny. It's dead serious. These kids need help, you know what I mean? So that's what's going on there. Even Derek cowers at the end. I'm like, frig you, Derek. Seriously. And well, basically, you've got the rest of our crew. Now, they break into the military, and they break into all that stuff, and that's their goal, at least, and that's kind of where we ended, is them breaking into the military, breaking in to get into the Upside Down, so that happens. Terminator lady, the grandma, still here. Still wants 11. The grandma's still around. She survives till series finale. I didn't expect that, honestly. But anyway, we've got all that stuff going on. All the characters now banding together. You got Steve and Dustin's final talk as he's like, you die, I die, so I thought that was great. I don't think Steve is dead. I don't think Dustin is dead. I think they're making this way too obvious, and they got one more episode left to prove to me that they have the guts to kill a fucking character, but it sounds like they probably won't, so we'll have to see. But that's the vibe there. I just want tension for this final season, y'all. I'm grateful these characters have made it. I love a lot of these characters, so it doesn't bother me too much, but it's you're in a final season, and it's nobody's dying. It just, I don't know, because you know what it is? It's made it to where when a character is near death, I'm not nervous. I'm like, oh, somebody will come in. You know what I mean? When Nancy and Jonathan were about to die, I was like, yeah, somebody will come in, and then, lo and behold, not even. The freaking thing just hardens. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, all right, they're not killing characters, okay? It takes the tension out for me. And in a show like this, I'm supposed to be on the edge of my seat, you know what I mean? And if nobody's dying, then it's like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy the spectacle. You get what I'm saying? So, I don't know. But, it was good. I liked the final episode there, the penultimate. It was a good episode. I liked all the stuff going on. The final moments, our characters are going in now, and they break into the military, go into the Upside Down. You have 8 that thinks for some reason that 11 and her should just disappear when they shut down the Upside Down. So they're kind of teasing 11's death, if you will. Yeah, it's funny. I think they will die, quote-unquote, and then you'll reveal in a post-credit that they're both alive and they're getting a spinoff. It wouldn't shock me at all. But that's how the episode ends. They're in the Upside Down. Everybody's ready. They're ready to be in there, and they're ready to shut the Upside Down, get the kids out, and finish this thing with Vecna, going in there, bada bing, bada boom. So, I think that's most of what I wanted to say. Well, there is one more thing, but I'm not going to hover on this too much. This took the vibe out of it completely for me. Will reveals to the group that he's gay, y'all. If anybody cares about that, I didn't. I was like, you're gay, so what? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't change your character, you know? It doesn't change who you are, you know? And I get that's the message, you know what I mean? But I was just like, guys, do we really got to do this right now? The timing felt so ridiculous. Like, you already know Will likes Mike. I mean, good lord, they tease it all the frickin' time. You know what I mean? You already know he likes guys. You already know this, and this is him trying to accept himself and this and that. That's just a checkbox on Hollywood's part. That's all that was. And it was really dumb that they put that in Stranger Things, honestly, because I thought that show was better than that to do that stupid garbage. Like, when you're in the middle of getting ready for a final battle, you got all the characters together, the last thing you want to see is that garbage, you know what I mean? Again, it's fine that he's gay, you know what I mean? It's all fine and dandy. But what are we doing putting that in the final few minutes of the episode? Like, you could have done that. If you're going to do that, you could have done that earlier this season. Why we got to linger on that? Like, we're already in the final emotional goodbyes. We don't got to get a freaking coming out of the closet moment. You know what I'm saying? So that moment was stupid as hell to me. That killed the vibe for me of the final few minutes. But yeah. This half, how would I look at it? 7.5. That's what I'm going to do for it. I like it. I think it's good. But I don't think it's great. I think it's just good. It's good TV with a couple stupid things in between. No tension. You kind of just sit back and watch it. No characters die. That's basically where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it. Honestly, for that, no, 7 out of 10. That's what I'm at. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I think it's good. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just, hey, it's good. Some mindless action with no tension. That's where it's at. That's where I would say. So, that's kind of how I look at it. The second volume definitely isn't as good as the first. I'm really thinking, though, that they've set up for a great series finale here. So I think they've got the opportunity to send this out well. I do. So hopefully they'll take that opportunity. We'll have to see. But that's my thoughts on Stranger Things Volume 2, y'all. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with my positives? Do you agree with some of my criticisms about it as well? Let me know how you feel about the no deaths thing. Do you feel like it's also taking you out of the tension moments as well? Because for me it is. It's taken me out. And do you also agree that you find that, the first half was better? Because I think the first half was better. But what's funny? I think they've got an opportunity here on New Year's for a banger series finale. So I'm hoping they take that opportunity. So we'll see. A few more days, and we'll find out how this bad boy ends. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, guys, and you enjoy videos like this, make sure to click subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos. Make sure to follow me on Dan's Reviews Official on Instagram, guys. And of course, I'll see you guys really soon for more videos very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and peace out.
Born in the dark alleys, city of concrete. Dan's reviews blowing up, never taste defeat. Walking Dead dissected every plot twist beat. World gone mad, TV junkies hit a treat. Typing up scripts, marathon through the night. His opinions hit harder than a street fight scene. Every episode, brain sharper than a knife. He's the beacon of critique, shedding TV light.